Hello everyone, my name is Lori Marcourt and I am one of the team leads and also a negotiator for the Grants Administration Division. Today my colleagues and I, Alfredo Velasquez Sanchez and Nelly Nino, will be walking you through how to complete the ESSA Consolidated Grant application. This presentation is being presented as a recording. However, you can still enter questions using the Q&A feature. We will monitor the questions to provide answers at the end of the presentation live, and in some cases, if it is a simple or short answer, we will respond to you in the Q&A. Thank you.
Closed captioning in the form of a live transcript and subtitles that are automatically generated by the Zoom webinar platform will be available at today's training. To access the closed captioning features, locate the closed captioning live transcript icon on the Zoom menu bar and click on it. The menu will provide you the options to show subtitles, view the full transcript as the training takes place, and additional subtitle settings.
The 21-22 ESSA Consolidated Grant Application Training can be located at the following two links: Statewide Training Series link and the Grant Resources link. The Statewide Training Series lets you access 18 statewide virtual training opportunities for LEAs, ESCs, and the public related to Federal Grants Administration in the Department. A link to access the voiceover presentation and handouts will be added to this webpage after each training. The Grant Resources link offers training documents and webinar videos for the following 21-22 federal formula grants: Special Ed Consolidated Grant, ESSA Grant, and Perkins 5 Grant.
Before we get started, please note that the information being presented is general information based on the agency's current understanding of the subject matter. It is subject to change, it does not constitute legal advice, and you are advised to seek your own legal counsel before acting on any information or guidance being presented. Here is a look at the two forms that need to be submitted before start working on the ESSA application grant. The Special Collection 5003 and the Applicant Designation and Certification, which both are already opened. The due date for the 2021-2022 ESSA Consolidated Grant application is September 3rd. So we have 3 full months to submit this grant. The planning amounts are available and posted on TEA's entitlement page. The agenda for today will touch on the following topics: actions you need to take prior to start working in the application, how to access e-grants, create a username, and the different existing roles. We will review the schedules that allow you to apply for the ESSA Consolidated Grant application, how to open ESSA Grant and input the initial applicant information and contacts will be reviewed. Then, we will go over in detail in how to complete the different schedules, updates in the 21-22 ESSA application, and the budget worksheet. Also, we will discuss about resources that may assist you along the way. There are few preparations that TEA strongly suggests doing to get ready for all e-grants. The first thing is review and update all the information in ASTED. Be sure LA and campus information in ASTED is current. Check and update campus information, grade span, and other LA information. Ask TED is located at the TEA's homepage. It is situated at the top of the page in the top blue ribbon. After you update information in Ask TED, please verify staff has still an eGrants access. Number 3. Obtain a copy of the most recently approved 2021 ESSA application. Review it and please review the negotiation items to avoid renegotiate the same items year to year. Next, be sure LA's contacts are updated. Remember, this is not just for ESSA. Information in the Contacts tab includes SPED and Perkins contacts. Be sure to include a grantee official who will be certifying and submitting the Special Collection 5003, the ADC form, and the grant applications. Number 5. As you all know, TEA is in the process of migrating all its web applications, such as grants, to be compatible with Chrome. This is an agency-wide initiative to remove Internet Explorer from our applications within the next months to enhance security for web-based applications. We no longer test eGrants applications with Internet Explorer. We now test the applications using Chrome as our browser to ensure its compatibility. All this to say, you need to use Chrome as your browser. Since this is a transition year, if you are having problems with the application, start off by checking you are using Chrome, restart your computer, and/or delete the browser history. And number 6, coordinate with other staff members. Collaborate with SPED and Perkins staff members who also have a stake in completing the contacts information and the SC 5003. Work with the business office staff to be sure items budgeted in the application are properly coded. For example, knowing your LA's capitalization level is key for the properly budgeting supplies and capital outlay. Work with those involved with a comprehensive needs assessment and properly document activities in the grant application. There should be a strong connection between needs identified through the CNA and those provided by the grant. Fiscal agents. Begin communicating and setting up agreements with member districts. If you need a list of your SSA members, access your current ESSA application and go to Schedule 6001. There is a button that will produce a report of your current SSA members. This table shows you the 5 different eGrant roles, in blue on the left, and their different capabilities based on the different areas of eGrants, in black along top. For example, Grantee Official is the only authorized role to submit original grants applications and the lead drafts. Please remember to use Chrome when officials are approving eGrant roles for staff. This chart is available on the Grant Resources web page. After you did all your preparations and know the capabilities of each role, Let's see how to get access to ESSA grant and other e-grants. The first thing to do is access TIL. Going to TEA homepage, at the very top there is a blue ribbon and there is a link, TIL Login, circle in red. By selecting the link, you will be taken to the TEA login screen. Here, if you don't have a TIL account, click on the Request New User Account link. You will be directed to a screen to provide information and submit your request. When requesting access to e-grants, the correct county district number and vendor ID number will be needed. Then you will be given your username and a temporary password. Then you will set up your password. I do advise everyone, please make sure that when you first set up your login, that you go in and answer the security questions, because in case you forget your password, security questions will help you to reset it. We are not able to do it. Your username is a single user, and once you have it, whether you are with one school district or another, will always stay the same. Program staff and grant writers should know who the grantee official is, so once they have completed the information in application, they can notify and follow up appropriately with the grantee official to be sure the application has been submitted to TEA timely. On the other hand, if you already have an account, go ahead and sign in. Now that you have access to e-grants, let's see how you apply for it. The first step will be to submit the Schedule 5003. This is a consolidated schedule that contains and requests information for ESSA, SPED federal and state, and Perkins. To access Schedule 5003, you will log in into TIL. Once you are logged in into TIL, this is the window that takes you after you do it. You will find a list of different sections with applications, such as e-grants, ESSA reports, expenditure reporting, and others. Go to the e-grants section and select the e-grants role that will permit you to work on the ESSA application. For example, Service Center staffs may have a grantee viewer role and a grantee manager role. Once in e-grants page, enter your county district number on the top right corner of the screen, circle in red. Then you will find the Schedule 5003 under the Special Collections tab, squared in blue. Select the Schedule 5003 Formula Grants Consolidated Schedule link from the list, pointed with an arrow, and start reviewing the information and make updates as appropriate. If the form does not appear or the status shows closed, please contact your TEA negotiator. Here is the Schedule 5003. It consists of two parts, and both parts must be completed to submit this form. In Part 1, all three grants programs, ESSA, SPED, and Perkins, will need to include any barriers to equitable access and participation for groups receiving services. Be sure you allow the other grant programs SPED and Perkins staff to complete this section before it is certified and submitted. If no barriers exist, the LA can select the first radio button. For each barrier, select the appropriate group. Click on the instructions or the help buttons for the list of the standard barriers. Part 2 has 3 small sections. Part 2A contains the links to the general guidelines, provisions and assurances, debarment and suspension, and the lobbying certification. Click the item link to open the document and complete the lobbying activity section as appropriate. Part 2B contains the program-specific guidelines and the program-specific provision and assurances. Part 2C is the certification for these documents. Checking this box confirms that the LA will comply with these requirements. Once all the program staff, ESSA, SPED, and Perkins have completed and reviewed Part 1 and 2, the authorized official will need to certify and submit the Schedule 5003. Once the Schedule 5003 has been submitted and the application has been opened by TEA, the ESSA grant application will appear under the Grants tab under Apply for Eligible Grants. It will show you the list of grant names ready to open. Clicking on the 2021-2022 ESSA grant name will open several forms associated with ESSA grants. The second document that all applicants must do is the Applicant Designation and Certification Form, ADC. You will log in through TIL. Once in the e-grants, enter your county district number, just like I described it for the Schedule 5003. This time you will select the Grants tab to find the ESSA grant. Here is the screen you will see after you click on ESSA grant. Under the ESSA grant, there will be a list of different forms. Go ahead and select the 2021-2022 ESSA Applicant Designation and Certification Form. If you are unable to see the form or it is marked closed, please contact your negotiator immediately. This form has 2 parts. The part 1 of the form is the designation. You can see it now on the slide. In this part, you will identify how you will apply for each funding source. Please select the radio button for each funding source. It is important to select a radio button for all available funding sources unless they are grayed out. You have 4 options. Apply on as an independent, as a fiscal agent of a shared service arrangement, mostly service centers, as a member of a shared service arrangement, and it is very important to identify if you will not be applying for a source of funds program at all. If you are not eligible or do not have funds for a specific program or funding source, that line will be disabled and grayed out. At the end of Part 1, there is a link for the LA's current entitlements. Part 2 is the certification and incorporation. The grantee official will select his/her name from the list in the Authorized Officials section. Next, system will populate automatically the submitted information, and then authorized official can go ahead and click the Certify and Submit button. Once the ADC form is completed and submitted, the ESSA grant application will appear and be ready to work. For the next part of the presentation, it is my pleasure to leave Nelly Niño with you.
Hi everyone, I am Nelly Niño and I am the Region 10 negotiator. Shout out to Region 10, as well as the team lead for the negotiation team responsible for Regions 1 through 10. I will be going through the program schedules. Now, the first schedule you completed when you opened the application was the GS 2100, the Applicant Information Schedule. I'm going to continue with the second schedule we'd like for you to complete, the PS 3109, the REAP and Funding Transferability Schedule. Now, we ask that you complete these first few schedules in order because, if applicable, information from this schedule populates on other schedules. So first of all, if you're not choosing REAP or Funding Transferability, all you need to do is check the 4 Does Not Apply buttons in both sections A and B, and you're done. So you just save the schedule and go to the next one. If you are choosing REAP or Funding Transferability, let's talk about how you do that. Let me start by telling you a little about the differences between the two. For REAP, only LEAs that are on the SRSA, or Small Rural School Achievement Program list, are eligible to apply for REAP. And REAP allows you more flexibility in using the Title IIA and or Title IVA funds for activities under the title program you are REAPing into. Transferability is the LEA notifying TEA that you are transferring your Title IIA and or Title IVA funds to the title program you've indicated to be used for allowable activities under that title program. Money doesn't actually move and will still show up under the original title program in the budget summary. So let's say you checked the SRSA list, which you can access on our website by typing SRSA list into the search box, and your LEA is on it and you've decided you're going to REAP. You would then check the Does Not Apply buttons for Title IIA and Title IVA in Section B and only complete Section A. If you're REAPing 100% of both Title IIA and Title IVA into Title IA, you would indicate 100 in the 2 boxes under the Title IA column and save the schedule. If you're REAPing 50% of both Title IIA and Title IVA into Title IA, you would indicate 100 in the 2 boxes under the Title IA column and save the schedule. If you are only REAPing 100% of Title IIA into Title IA, or 50% or 25%, you would enter that number under the Title IA column for Title IIA on line 1, and then click Does Not Apply for Title IVA on line 2. Now, let's say you check the SRA list and you're not eligible to REAP. Well, fear not, because funding transferability is available to all. So you would check the Does Not Apply button in Section A and complete Section B by placing a percentage under the title program you are wanting to transfer into for both lines 1 and 2, or Does Not Apply for one of those lines if you're only transferring one, and then be sure to save your schedule. The third schedule we would like you to complete is the PS 3099, Private Nonprofit School Equitable Services. Part 1 is the Private Schools Consultation and Participation section. In Section A, it asks, are any private nonprofit schools located within the LEA's boundaries? And does the LEA have any Title I Part A eligible students attending private nonprofit schools outside the boundaries? If the answer is no for both questions, click no and the rest of the schedule will gray out and you can scroll to the bottom and save. If you answer yes to either question in Section A, Part 1, Section B must be completed, indicating if private nonprofit schools are participating in any of the title programs you are applying for. If PNPs say want services from Title 1A, then mark yes under Title 1A, and so forth until all participation is indicated. For Part 1, Section C, select both assurances. By doing so, your LEA assures compliance with the requirements in Section 1117B1 and/or Section 8501C1. Part 2 is the Equitable Services Calculation. This slide shows an example for Title 2A. The LEA only completes Line 1, Total Student Enrollment in LEA, Line 2, Total Student Enrollment in Participating Private Schools, and, if applicable, Line 8, the LEA Reservation for Direct Administration. If the LEA is using funding transferability, Lines 5 and 6 will populate amounts from information entered on the PS 3109. The system will then auto-calculate the PNP Equitable Services amounts as the calculated private school reservation. Once it is complete, save the schedule. So now that the first 3 schedules are completed, the order in which you complete the remaining schedules is up to you. I'm going to start with the PS 3101, the Title I Part A District Reservation Schedule. Your district reservations are indicated on this schedule. Entitlement amounts auto-populate on Line 1, and on Lines 2 and 3, transferred amounts auto-populate from information entered on the PS 3109 so the system can calculate the total funding and transfer amounts on Line 4. For Section B, determine which reservations you will be applying for and select the NA boxes on the left side for any reservations you will not apply for. If your total funding and transfer amount from Line 4 in Section A is $500,000 or more, a minimum of 1% of that total funding and transfer amount must be reserved on Line 1. If Title 1A funds are being used for equitable services to private nonprofit students, the amount calculated in the PS 3099 for Part 2, Section A, Question 11, is the amount you should enter on Line 2. If an amount was entered for administrative costs in the PS 3099, Part 2, Section A, Question 10, that amount should be entered on Line 3 here. If you have served campuses offering preschool programs, you may reserve funds at the district level on Line 4. Line 5 is for administrative costs, including personnel. But if you are reserving for administrative personnel, there should be administrative positions indicated on the BS 6101. Line 6 is for district-wide professional development activities. Line 7 requires you to enter at least $100 for services to homeless students. Lines 8 and 9 are for reservations for students in neglected and/or delinquent facilities. Line 10 is for foster care transportation, and line 11 is for other reservations. Please describe these other reservation costs in the box for line 11. We often see ESSA contracts listed here. Now please remember that these are district reservations, but that the majority of your Title I Part A funding should be budgeted directly for students, so the total reserved funds should be an appropriate amount and will be questioned if otherwise. And remember to save your schedule. And now for the first change to the ESSA application. The PS 3102 is the Title I Part A Neglected and Title I Part D Subpart 2 Delinquent Facility Schedule. If you serve one of these facilities, some information from the facility's special collection report will pre-populate starting with the local facility name on line 1. And for anyone who has completed this schedule before, the first change is to the facility status. where before the options were both N and C, indicating whether the facility was either new or closed, for any lines with pre-populated information, you will only indicate if it is closed, along with answering the question, were any services provided in the school year 2021-2022. Next, you'll select the participation funding source, indicating whether you are using Title I Part A to help support it or Title I Part D Subpart 2. Next is the date of your agreement letter for any delinquent facilities, and we ask that that letter be within the last 2 years. And then check the written agreement assurance box. If after you completed and submitted your facility's special collection report, a facility opened up, it can be manually added under New Facility for the Neglected and Delinquent by completing the necessary information. Part 2 must then be completed for your planned expenditures, and at least one expenditure must be checked. And remember to save the schedule. This is the PS 3103 Title I Part C Migrant Schedule. If you're not applying for migrant funding, then this schedule will not show up on your table of contents. So for Part 1, you'll want to enter the date of the most recent consultation with the Parent Advisory Committee, or PAC. It should be prior to the first day of school. So let's say you submit your application in June and your consultation with your PAC is in July. You can enter that July date there because it is before the first day of school. Part 2 is for required program activities, and Part 3 is the Priority for Service Action Plan, and all are required in order to complete this schedule. Part 4 is where you indicate the planned supplemental activities or services that you will be supplying to the different grade levels, and you can select any and all that apply, but just remember that there must be at least one check for each grade level. And if you choose NA for any of the 4 grades listed, an explanation of that NA must be entered in the box for number 5. So let's say you indicate NA for out-of-school youth because you have no out-of-school youth. You can indicate that there are no out-of-school youth in the box for number 5. Remember to save the schedule. The PS 3104 is the Title II Part A schedule. Part 1A is pre-populated with the Title II Part A allocation on line 1. Line 2 indicates if any Title IV Part A funds have been transferred into Title IIA using funding transferability designated on the PS 3109. Line 3 indicates if any Title II Part A funds have been transferred out of Title II Part A. And that leaves you with the total allocation and transfer amount on line 4. And if you have funds indicated on line 4, Part 1B has 3 options for planned use of funds and an other box for other allowable activities not included in lines 1 through 3. And for anyone who had private nonprofit schools participating in Title II Part A on the PS 3099, be aware that line 2, professional development and growth-specific activities, is an acceptable use of funds for those private nonprofit schools and should be indicated here. For those choosing number 3 in Section B, evidence-based activities, you may have classified those as class size reduction in the past. If you're using these funds for class size reduction to hire professional staff, you will need to have documented that it is evidence-based, that it is being used to improve student outcome, and that the staff person is not being hired to meet the state requirement of the 22-to-1 ratio. Once you've completed this, remember to save your schedule. The PS 3106 is the Title III Part A schedule. In Part 1A, supplemental activities for language instruction educational programs, at least one item must be checked. In Part 1B, supplemental activities for parent, family, and community engagement, all 3 activities are required, so all 3 must be checked. And in Part C, there are 5 activities listed along with an other line. But if you indicate number 6 other, you must also include one of the 5 listed activities. Once you've completed this schedule, remember to save. The PS 3114 is the Title III Part A Immigrant Schedule. If you did not apply for immigrant funding, you will not see the schedule listed on your table of contents. For Part 1A, Language Instruction Educational Programs, at least 1 activity is required. In Part 1B, NA is acceptable as these parent, family, and community outreach activities are not required for immigrant funding. And in Part 1C, Support for Personnel, for teachers and paraprofessionals, you can select Recruitment, Training, or NA because professional development is also not required for immigrant funding. Once you've completed this, please remember to save. This is the PS 3107, the Title IV Part A schedule. In Part 1A, similar to the PS 3104, the available funds are indicated on lines 1 through 4. Line 1 shows the entitlement amount. Line 2 includes transfers in from Title IIA. Line 3 includes transfers out from Title IVA. And line 4 displays the total allocation and transfer amounts. The amount on line 4 is the amount you will need to reference in order to complete Part 1B, Planned Uses of Funds. At the top of the page, there's a checkbox if the LEA is redirecting 100% of the Title IVA funds using REAP or funding transferability. If you are reaping or transferring all Title IVA funds out of Title IVA, then you check this box and the rest of the schedule will not be available to you. So let's continue with the PS 3107. In Part 1B, Planned Uses of Funds, lines 1 through 4 must equal the amount shown in Part 1A, line 4, total allocation and transfer amounts. If the amount is less than $30,000, the LEA may select one service area between activities to support well-rounded educational opportunities, activities to support safe and healthy students, or activities to support effective use of technology. If the amount on line 4 in Part 1A is over $30,000, then you will have to select all 3 of the service areas and enter amounts based on the requirements and the rules indicated. For example, funding on line 2 for activities to support well-rounded educational opportunities must be a minimum of 20% of the total budget if Part 1A, line 4 is $30,000 or more, and so on. For line 1, direct administrative costs, you are limited to 2% of the total budget, including transfers. And now we come to another new item in the application. Lines 1 through 4 and line 5 are separated because the amounts on lines 1 through 4 must total 100% of the total budget from Part 1A, line 4. Line 5 is actually technology infrastructure, and it is a subset of the amount listed on line 4, activities to support effective use of technology, and the amount on line 5 is limited to 15% of the amount listed on line 4. In Part 2A, Comprehensive Needs Assessment, you are asked to check one of 2 boxes. Line 1 is required if the amount in Part 1A, line 4, is greater than or equal to $30,000, making it a requirement to conduct a needs assessment. For line 2, if the amount in Part 1A, line 4 is less than $30,000, a comprehensive needs assessment is not required, but the LEA must assure that they have consulted with stakeholders to determine how to prioritize the use of funds. Parts 2B and 2C are required to complete the schedule. Parts D, E, and F speak to the activities you indicated above in Part 1B. So let's say you put all your money into support for safe and healthy students in Part 1B, you would only need to check the box for Section E. If you selected boxes 2 through 4 in Part 1B, then the boxes in Sections D, E, and F must be checked. So now we come to the SC 5000, the Title I Part A Campus Selection Schedule. For the SC 5000, I'm just going to explain the application details, but be aware that specifics regarding use of funds and campus information will be addressed in the training being offered by the Federal Program Compliance Division on June 9th. When beginning the SC 5000, you will notice that some of the information for this schedule is pre-populated. The first piece of information you will have to enter is, in Section A, Line 2, the LEA Total Low Income Percentage. And there's a guidance document with the program guidelines on the Grant Opportunities page that can explain how you should calculate your district's low income percentage. Line 3 is new, and it asks for the LEA Total Enrollment. And once you enter the enrollment for each campus in Section B, the system will calculate the total enrollment number and populate it on Line 3. Section B is where the campus selection data is entered, and the following information is populated from Ask TED: the campus number, the campus name, and the campus grade level. This information is pulled from the Ask TED database and must be validated before it will populate on the SC 5000. So Ask TED should be updated before you even start the application so that the correct information populates in the SC 5000 when you open it. There's also a Copy Prior Year Data button you can use if information has not changed from the previous year, and it will populate last year's basis of eligibility in the second column, campus status in column 5, and the Consolidated Funds designation, which indicates if you are using Title I Part A only, federal funds only, or federal, state, and local funds in column 8. Another change to the application is for the basis of eligibility. In the drop-down, you have the options None, Residing, Enrollment, Feeder Pattern, Optional Method, and Direct Certification. The new column, column 3, is for additional eligibility and should only be selected if applicable. For additional eligibility, the options are Individual Programmatic Waiver, School-Wide EdFlex Waiver, School-Wide Previous Year, and 1-Year Transition. And just so you know, just because it pre-populates information does not mean you can't change the information if it needs to be tweaked. The information you will have to enter manually is each total campus enrollment in column 1, each campus low income percentage in column 4, the number of students being served if the campus is being designated targeted assistance for the campus status in column 6, and any other information in column 7. For the campus low income percentages, if the percentage, say, is 64.81, please don't just enter 64%. Please enter the amount to the tenths if applicable. A few general helpful hints. Per pupil amounts no longer need to be entered in this schedule. However, you still have to follow the same rules when determining campuses to be served. For a multiple attendance area, which means you have a total district enrollment of 1,000 or more students and you have grade span duplication, the campuses must be served in rank and serve order, meaning that the campuses with low income percentages above 75% are most in need and must be served in order, from highest to lowest. And once you've done those, you can serve the rest of the campuses by grade span groupings or continue to use rank and serve. Also, All documentation on how you are allocating funds should be kept locally. And remember that the SC 5000 guidance document has examples of how to set these up. If you are a single attendance area, which means you have a total district enrollment of less than 1,000 students, or you have no grade span duplication, all campuses are Title 1A eligible, but they must still meet the 40% low income percentage for any campus to be school-wide. Please also refer to the schedule instructions for the SC 5000 for rules and examples when completing this schedule. And finally, Section C, Campus Assurances. The most common campus designations we see are for school-wide, targeted assistance, and SCIP. So if you are using those campus designations, you'll need to check the appropriate boxes. Further instruction on this process will be shared with you in the SC 5000 training being offered by the Federal Program Compliance Division. And remember to save this schedule once you've made any changes to it. And finally, we come to the WV 4001, the Title I Part A waiver schedule, and the WV 4004, the EdFlex Title 1A school-wide eligibility schedule. Only those LEAs that are eligible and require a Title I Part A carryover waiver will be contacted by the Grants Administration Division to negotiate this waiver request. The condition of eligibility is defined as an LEA with an entitlement of $50,000 or more and with a carryover in excess of 15% of your maximum entitlement from the previous school year. The LEA is contacted and asked to complete and submit a form to TEA, and we will enter the information you submit on that form into the WV 4001. Do not complete this schedule yourself, please. In order to qualify to use the WV 4004 EdFlex Title I Part A school-wide eligibility waiver, the campus must first be a Title I Part A eligible campus. A campus is Title I Part A eligible if the LEA is a single attendance area or the campus low income percentage is 35% or greater, or if the campus low income percentage is less than 35% but greater than the district total low income percentage, or if the campus has an individual programmatic waiver, or if the campus uses feeder pattern for eligibility, or if the campus uses one-year transition. This information will be discussed further in the SC 5000 training from the Federal Program Compliance Division. If you do complete the WV 4004, please remember to save. So that completes the program schedule section of the applications, and now with the budget schedule instructions, I give you Lori Marquardt.
Hello, my name is Lori Marquardt, and I'll be going over the program budget schedules with you today. BS 6001 Program Budget Summary. All supporting schedules will have to be saved in order to complete the budget pages. If you do not have any funds budgeted under a specific budget code, you will still need to open the supporting schedule and save it. Part 1 shows your available funding for each fund source. These amounts are pre-populated based on how you submitted your ADC. If you selected Apply on your own, you will see your planning amounts. If you selected Apply as a fiscal agent, you will see the fiscal agent's amount plus the amount for your SSA members that have designated you as the fiscal agent. To view the list of members, click on the button at the top of the schedule titled View List of SSA Members. It will show all your LEAs that selected you to be their fiscal agent. You can verify who has submitted their ADC and can reach out to those who have not completed their ADC so that you can complete the application on their behalf. Part 2 is the section in which you will budget the amounts for each class object code. This schedule must be completed and saved with no errors before the other supporting budgets will open. This is only the first time you complete the BS 6001. Once it has been saved and completed with no errors, you will have access to the supporting schedules even if you get another error message on the BS 6001 Program Budget Summary. Budget Summary, Part 2. Part 2. Enter your details by class object code. Add payroll costs, professional and contracted services, supplies and materials, other operating costs, debt services, and capital outlay. Line 9 is where indirect costs are entered. If you did not apply for funds or have SSA members, those areas may be grayed out and you will not be able to put funds in those columns. If you transfer funds from Title II or Title IV into Title I, the funds still show up under the original budgeted sources. If you are reaping or transferring those funds into Title I, it is up to the local LEA's policy as to how they will budget those funds and pay funds out for reimbursement, which will not be shown on this budget schedule. If you add budgeted amounts for a class object code, then you will have to complete the supporting schedule. There is no supporting budget schedule for 6300 because 6300 does not require specific approval. If you wonder what items require specific approval, TEA's Grant Resource page has a Budget Costs Guidance Handbook that lists what requires specific approval and what does not require specific approval. Breakout of direct admin costs. If you are receiving Title III Part A, then Part 2B will appear and you will need to identify any direct administrative costs under the Direct Class Object Code. The system will check validations because Title III Part A is limited to no more than 2% in direct administrative costs. If you do not have any direct administrative costs, you can leave the section blank and save the schedule. If there are not any errors, the schedule should state it is complete and you can move on to the next schedule. BS 6101 Payroll Cost Schedule, Part 1, Total Payroll Costs. If no funds are budgeted on the BS 6001 Program Budget Summary for Class Object Code 6100 Payroll Costs, those columns in the schedule will be grayed out and you will not be able to select any of the checkboxes on the schedule. Part 1 shows the amount you budgeted for each fund source. If there is a budgeted amount in Part 1, Part 2 will need to be completed. Payroll Costs, Part 2. Part 2, Line 1 is for your administrative support staff. Enter the number of positions for each fund source. If you are split funding a position, include them on the schedule. Keep documentation locally in regards to time and effort. Part B and C are just checkboxes. You do not have to list the number of positions. Indicate if the positions are LEA or campus positions. The LEA must determine how to classify positions as professional staff or paraprofessionals. That is defined locally. The same thing applies to whether the positions are LEA level positions or campus level positions. TA does not make those distinctions because every LEA is different as to how they code their personnel and their job descriptions are different. Part 3, Line 1, School-wide personnel applies for all funding sources. Usually applies to Title I Part A funds for those campuses you have identified on the SC 5000 as being school-wide. This checkbox covers all personnel at the school-wide campus. That includes paraprofessionals and professionals or any staff member if they are being paid out of Title I Part A. You can check this box. You are not required to check them under Part 2C campus staff. This checkbox covers them. However, since it is only one checkbox that it covers any fund source, you have to make sure if you are using this that you are not using REAP or Transferability. This would only apply for Title I Part A. If you are using REAP or Transferability for Title II or Title IV, and your 100% is going into Title I Part A, then that checkbox would apply for those funds that are budgeted for payroll. Also, if you want to use it for all fund sources that you're budget for, if on the SC 5000 you are combining your funds at the campus level, the school-wide checkbox would also apply. There is no validation in e-grants for this. If you are not sure, contact your negotiator and they can look at how you have the funds budgeted and how you have your campus designated and help you. Line 2, stipends and extra duty pay can be checked for all fund sources, and substitutes and incentive pay. We get questions about what is the difference between stipends and incentive pay. That is locally defined. Some districts provide a stipend for bilingual certification. There are other instances like in Title II for recruitment and retention of teachers. Some districts have an incentive pay if they sign to be a teacher for 2 years at their district for math and science courses that they have difficulty hiring for. But that is locally defined. Just remember to keep documentation. Part 4. The last thing is confirmation of payroll requirements. Use according to all federal supplement provisions. Make sure you have all the documentation to determine that the position that are being funded under that grant meets the purpose, goals, and objectives of the federal funding source. All documentation is maintained locally unless TEA requests copies or if an auditor requests copies. If you are paying out of these fund sources for payroll positions, make sure it is something that has been addressed in your comprehensive need assessment for your LEA. BS 6201, Professional Contracted Services Schedule, Part 1. There are 2 lines on the schedule that you may need to complete if appropriate. If you place funds on BS 6001 Program Budget Summary for Class Object Code 6200, then the amount will automatically go under Remaining 6200, Costs that do not require specific approval. If you place funds under Rental or Lease of Buildings, or Professional and Consulting Services, any amount that is remaining will automatically go under amounts that do not require specific approval. Refer to the program guidelines and EDGAR rules for the items that require specific approval. Costs that do not require specific approval are listed on page 7 and 8 of the Budgeting Cost Guidance Handbook. All other contracted services require specific approval, and the amounts should be listed on line 2. Also refer to your local policies and bid processes. Examples of costs that require specific approval are rental or lease of buildings, space in buildings, or land. Professional development also requires specific approval. If nothing is budgeted under 6200 on the BS 6001 Program Budget Summary for Class Object Code 6200 and all the remaining amounts are 0, you will only need to save the schedule to complete it. We will skip 6300 Supplies and Materials because this fund source does not require specific approval. BS 6401 Other Operating Cost Schedule, Part 1. Some of the items you will see in this section are out-of-state travel, travel for students to conferences, and educational field trips. The items that require specific approval are listed on lines 1 through 7. Place dollar amounts under the appropriate fund source. The other operating costs on the schedule do not require you to attach any documentation to this application. Maintain documentation locally for these items. Some of these require pre-authorization in writing from TEA or USDE before that activity can occur. On TEA's website, you will find these forms that require pre-authorization in writing. These forms will need to be submitted to a specific program area. Even though you have budgeted items on this schedule and you have received your NOGA, the items that require pre-authorization in writing must be approved by the program area to have it charged to this federal grant. There is a link at the bottom of the page titled Websites for Approval Documents, where the approval forms are located. At the bottom of each form, it indicates where you email the form for approval. BS 6501 Debt Services Schedule. This schedule is used very rarely. This is for a lease purchase that is for more than 1 year. If you have a purchase that can be paid in a year, you can budget it as a direct purchase. This schedule is for a lease purchase that is usually 2 to 3 years. In Part 1, you will need to place the funds under the correct fund source and identify if it is a capital lease principal, capital lease interest, or interest on debt. In Part 2, please list a description of the property, the fund source, and contract dates. Contract dates usually are the current year, maybe the previous year, and could also be the next year. Then complete the property value and campus number. Make sure this lease purchase is addressed in your comprehensive needs assessment. BS 6601 Capital Outlay, Part 1. If you have nothing budgeted for library books and media or capital expenditures for additions, improvements, or modifications, the remaining amount that populates in line 3 is for the costs that you budgeted on the BS 6001 and will be for items listed in Part 2. You will need to include a generic description of the equipment, the fund source, and the number of units. Also include a description of how it will be used to accomplish the goals of the program. We do not ask for dollar amounts or campus numbers anymore, but we do need to know the number of units and a description. Make sure not to use brand names. Capital Outlay Part 2. If line 3 is 0 and you enter something in Part 2 for equipment, you will get an error message that you do not have enough funds budgeted to include the equipment. Make sure the items are aligned with your local and federal policies as to how you capitalize. Federal Edgar rules say that a single unit with a cost of $5,000 or more must be capitalized. If your LEA has a more restrictive capitalization threshold, then use the one that is more restrictive. Some districts have a capitalization threshold of $500. Anything that is $500 or more needs to be placed in 6600. It also must be an allowable cost. It should be identified at your local level for the campuses and eligible students. Make sure you keep documentation on how you identify costs, and it should be addressed in your CNA and DIP. If it is an item that is an unusual cost, it may require pre-authorization in writing. Negotiators will not have you remove the item if it is for an unusual cost. We just want to remind you that you may need to complete a form for unusual cost and receive approval even if it is approved in the application and you have a NOGA. It is your responsibility to submit the documentation to request this in a timely manner before you purchase these items. PR 6000 District Gun-Free Report. I wanted to remind you that under the Compliance Report tab, your PR 6000 Gun-Free School District Report is available. This must be completed and submitted prior to receiving a NOGA from TEA. This schedule is a single-page form with 2 items. Line 1. If you are applying on your own or as an SSA, you should mark yes that you are going to be applying for these funds. Line 2. If you have had any incidences with a student that brought a firearm, check yes. If you mark no, you just need to complete the bottom and submit the form and you're all done. If you mark yes, the campus report should show up under the district report and you can select the campus to include the information. The district report has to be submitted first in order to process the application. You still need to complete the campus report. If there was an incident, our program staff will be reviewing the form. Make sure to keep documentation because that is required under statute to continue using federal funds. Grant resources. There are many resources on TA's website to assist you with your grant application. ESSA resources. The first link, Federal Program Compliance. You will find an FAQ document to assist you with many of your questions on the various title programs. There is also contact information for each of the program staff members. The EdFlex waiver link will give you an overview of the EdFlex waiver and different types of waivers available. The Grant Compliance and Administration link will give you information on the CARES Act, ESSA funding, and emergency assistance to non-public schools. It also has a brief summary of the divisions in grants administration and department functions. The SC 5000 guidance document will assist you when you are completing the SC 5000 schedule by giving you an overview of each section of the SC 5000 in detail. The non-regulatory guidance link gives you information about LEA identification and selection of school attendance areas. It also gives you the allocation of Title I funds to those areas and schools. The USDE guidance document link provides guidance on the implementation of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act. You can access the Grants Administration webpage from TEA's homepage by hovering over the Finance and Grants tab and selecting Grants Administration. Grants Administration webpage. The web page pictured here is the Grants Administration landing page. On the right-hand side, there are 3 blue bars. Under the bar titled Grants, you can access information. Grant Basics, which includes descriptions of the different types of grants awarded by TEA, for example, formula and discretionary grants. Discretionary grants include both competitive and non-competitive grants. Applying for a grant describes what an RFA is, application types, e-grants versus PDF, formerly known as paper grants, completing and submitting applications, the review and negotiation process, forms for prior approval, disclosure and justification. Administering a grant provides information about the compliance with regulations, payment requests, expenditure reporting, time and effort reporting, amending, and best practices for administering a grant. Grant resources includes budgeting guidance, expenditure reporting, and trainings. The second blue bar, titled Related Content Pages, provides quick access to important frequently needed information that may be located on other various web pages. Finally, the third blue bar outlines Grants Administration's contact information. By selecting the Division Contacts link, it will take you to a document that you can use to reach the Grants Administration Division. Here are our contacts for the Grants Administration Division. Our division contacts are linked in the sidebar on any Grants Administration webpage. Grant negotiators for ESSA, SPED, and Perkins are listed by their primary regions. We have also listed the expenditure reporting contacts and the contact information for the Grants Administration Division. If your questions are not answered during this session, you can always send those questions to your negotiator or to the Grants Administration email box so that we can answer your questions, especially if the question is specific to your grant. We can look at your application to make sure you have everything correct and that you have documented what you need. Now we will be going back live and will answer some questions that were submitted in the Q&A feature if time permits. Thank you.